Do you ever find yourself struggling to set boundaries with your children? Do you worry about how to balance discipline with a nurturing and loving approach? In today's world, it can be challenging for parents to know the right approach when it comes to boundary setting with their children. But fear not. In this video, we'll explore some proven strategies and tips for setting effective boundaries with your children. We'll hear from experts in child development and parenting, and we'll provide practical examples of how to implement these strategies in your own life. And stick around until the end for a special storytelling example that illustrates the power of setting boundaries with your children. By the end of this video, you'll have a better understanding of how to set clear and consistent boundaries with your children while maintaining a healthy and nurturing relationship. So, whether you're a new parent or a seasoned pro, get ready to take your parenting skills to the next level with our guide to setting effective boundaries with your children. Setting boundaries is one of the most important things you can do as a parent. It helps your child feel safe and secure and teaches them how to navigate the world around them. Effective boundaries help children learn self-control, develop empathy, and form healthy relationships with others. So, what are some key strategies for setting boundaries with your children? Be clear and consistent. Clarity and consistency are crucial when setting boundaries with your children. Make sure your child understands what behaviors are expected and what the consequences will be for not following through. Use positive language and avoid negative commands like, "Don't do that." Instead, provide clear and specific instructions on what you would like your child to do. Consistency is also key when setting boundaries. Follow through with the consequences you have set and make sure they are proportional to the behavior. This will help your child understand that the boundary is non-negotiable and will be enforced every time. Follow through with consequences. Following through with consequences is one of the most important parts of setting effective boundaries. Children need to learn that there are consequences for their actions and that their behavior has an impact on others. Make sure the consequences are appropriate and consistent with the behavior, and avoid being overly harsh or punitive. It is important to communicate the consequences clearly to your child and make sure they understand the reasoning behind them. When a boundary is crossed, calmly explain why the behavior is not acceptable and what the consequences will be. Then, follow through with the consequence consistently every time. Explain the reasoning behind the boundary. Children are more likely to respect boundaries when they understand the reasoning behind them. Explain why a certain behavior is not acceptable and how it affects others. This will help your child develop empathy and understand the importance of respecting boundaries. When explaining the reasoning behind a boundary, it is important to use age-appropriate language and avoid being judgmental or critical. Instead, focus on the impact the behavior has on others and how it can be improved. Be flexible and willing to adjust. As your child grows and develops, their needs and behaviors will change. It is important to be flexible and willing to adjust boundaries as needed. Keep an open dialogue with your child and be willing to listen to their perspective. According to Dr. Laura Markham, a clinical psychologist and author of Peaceful Parent, Happy Kids, setting boundaries is crucial for children's development. She suggests that parents should approach boundary setting as a collaborative process, involving their children in the decision-making process as much as possible. She says, "The more your child feels like they're part of the solution, the more they're going to buy into it." Let me share a storytelling example of setting boundaries with children. Once upon a time, there was a little boy named Alex who loved to play with his toys. One day, his mom asked him to clean up his toys before dinner. Alex started to put his toys away, but then he saw his favorite toy car and couldn't resist playing with it for just a little longer. His mom noticed that he wasn't cleaning up and reminded him of the boundary she had set. She said, "Alex, I asked you to clean up your toys before dinner. If you don't clean up now, you won't be able to play with your toys after dinner." Alex didn't want to lose his toy privileges, so he quickly cleaned up his toys and sat down for dinner. During dinner, Alex's mom explained to him why it was important to follow through with the boundaries she set. She said, When you follow the rules, it helps everyone in the family. We can all enjoy our time together without any distractions. Over time, Alex learned the importance of following the boundaries his mom set. He started to clean up his toys without any reminders, and even started to help out with other chores around the house. By being clear and consistent with her boundaries and explaining the reasoning behind them, Alex's mom was able to help him develop responsibility and independence. Dr. Shefali Sabari, a clinical psychologist and author of The Conscious Parent, stresses the importance of parents understanding their own boundaries before setting them with their children. She says, if you don't have a clear sense of what your boundaries are, you're not going to be able to hold them. You have to really be clear about what your values are, what your principles are, and what your expectations are. Nancy Samalin, a parenting expert and author of Loving Your Child Is Not Enough, emphasizes the need for parents to follow through with consequences when setting boundaries. She says, consequences are not punishment, they are teaching tools. It's not about hurting or punishing the child, it's about helping them understand the impact of their behavior. Experts agree that setting effective boundaries with children is crucial for their development and well-being. By approaching boundary setting as a collaborative process, understanding your own boundaries, and following through with consequences, parents can create a safe and nurturing environment for their children to thrive in. Setting boundaries around screen time can be a challenge for many parents. An effective approach might be to involve your child in the decision-making process by discussing what amount of screen time is reasonable and why. You could explain that too much screen time can affect their sleep, physical health, and even their mood. Collaboratively decide on a set amount of screen time per day and make sure your child understands the consequences for going over that limit, such as losing screen time the following day. By being clear and consistent, following through with consequences, and explaining the reasoning behind the boundary, you can help your child develop healthy habits around screen time. Setting boundaries around chores is another important aspect of parenting. Children need to learn the value of contributing to the family and taking responsibility for their own belongings. One approach might be to create a chore chart together, outlining what tasks need to be done and how often. Make sure the chores are age-appropriate and realistic for your child's abilities. Be clear about the consequences for not completing chores, such as losing privileges or experiencing natural consequences, like not having clean clothes to wear. By being consistent and following through with consequences, you can help your child develop responsibility and independence. As children get older, they may want to spend more time socializing with friends. Setting boundaries around socializing can be challenging, especially when it comes to safety concerns. One approach might be to collaboratively decide on rules around socializing, such as curfews, locations, and the number of friends they can hang out with at a time. Be clear about the consequences for breaking these rules, such as losing social privileges or experiencing natural consequences, like not being allowed to go out with friends for a period of time. By explaining the reasoning behind the boundary and being flexible when needed, you can help your child develop independence and responsibility while also ensuring their safety. Remember, setting boundaries is not about being strict or controlling, but about creating a safe and nurturing environment for your child to thrive in. By being clear and consistent, following through with consequences, explaining the reasoning behind the boundary, and being flexible, you can help your child develop self-control, empathy, and healthy relationships with others. If you found this video helpful, please like and share it with other parents who might benefit from this information. And don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more videos on parenting, child development, and family wellness. Thank you for choosing us as your source for parenting information. We're here to support you every step of the way.